This young guy has just landed in the toughest prison on Earth, on a remote island where inmates are literally kept from moving. Still, he's holding on to hope for escape. It's 1931, and a man named Papillon is breaking into a safe to swipe some diamonds. He snatches the loot, climbs out a window to avoid getting caught, and makes his way through the busy streets of Paris to a club where he hands the diamonds to the head of the French mafia. The boss is pleased, but warns Papillon that if he ever betrays him, there will be consequences. Papillon then meets up with the love of his life, Ninette, and gives her a necklace he also swiped from the safe but kept for himself. He confesses he held onto some diamonds too. A mafia associate watches everything. Papillon and Ninette spend the night drinking and enjoying each other's company. But their joy doesn't last. By morning, detectives show up and arrest Papillon for the murder of a pimp who had been at the same club the night before. Papillon remembers the mafia beating that pimp and realizes he's being framed. He tells Ninette not to worry. He has a solid alibi since he was with her all night. But later, when Papillon sees her in prison, he admits there's no point in trying to appeal. The system's corrupt, and he's been set up by powerful people. He's been sentenced to life. He tells Ninette he's focused on breaking out, but since it may take time, she should move on.
Time's up, lady. Come on. Come on.
Hands off me!
A man named Julot overhears and tells Papillon he'll need a lot of money to escape. Papillon then goes through a medical exam along with other new inmates. They're told they're being sent to a penal colony in French Guiana, a prison so brutal no one's ever escaped alive. On the ship to the island, Julot points out a man named Louis Degas and tells Papillon he's a master counterfeiter who made millions, so he's likely carrying cash. Papillon offers Degas a deal. Everyone on board wants his money, so he's in danger. Papillon will protect him, and in return, Degas will fund his escape. Degas turns him down, thinking guards will keep him safe. But that night, an inmate kills the guy sleeping next to Degas and cuts him open to find hidden money. Degas realizes the guards don't care if they kill each other, so he agrees to Papillon's offer. The next morning, he promises Papillon the money he needs if he protects him until he's settled in at the prison. Papillon makes it clear he's breaking out alone. Degas' fine with that. He says he has an appeal in process and will be out soon anyway. That night, an inmate comes after Degas with a knife, but Papillon spots it and fights him off. A violent brawl breaks out.
Come on! Get the knife! Get the knife!
After several minutes, the guards finally step in. They inspect the inmate's fists and see Papillon fought, so they punish him by tying him up so he can't move at all. The next morning, the ship reaches the prison island. Julot, who managed to steal a knife during the fight, cuts his own leg so he's sent to the infirmary. The rest of the inmates arrive at the prison, where the chief warden addresses them. He says he knows they're thinking about escape and warns that even if they dodge the guards' bullets, they'll just meet an ocean full of sharks. He says the first escape attempt gets 2 years in solitary. The second earns 5 years plus life on Devil's Island, a living nightmare. As prison life begins, Papillon quickly starts making connections. He asks the man in charge of assigning duties to station him and Degas together.
Take the corner.
At the infirmary, Degas tries to contribute, but since he comes from a high society background, his polite speech and formal way of talking don't sit well with the other inmates. The man tells them it'll cost $1,000. For that steep price, Papillon demands that they throw in cigarettes too. Degas adds that he also wants a notebook because he's an artist. The next day, word spreads that someone escaped from the infirmary. Papillon figures it's Julot and feels encouraged. It proves breaking out isn't impossible. Papillon and Degas are about to be assigned to the infirmary, but the deputy warden recognizes Degas and says his son-in-law was caught with fake bonds made by Degas. As payback, he sends both Degas and Papillon to work in the mines.
I'm not protecting you.
Later, Degas is sketching his wife and tells Papillon he's sure she'll push his appeal through and get him out. Papillon isn't so sure. Degas' wife now has all his money and her freedom, so it's unlikely she'll spend it trying to save him.
Optimist.
One day, while pushing a cart, Dega reveals he has diarrhea and that the cash he hides in his rear end slipped out.
Push it!
Papillon halts the cart and grabs the money before the guards notice. During a break, Papillon meets a man named Cellier, who used to be in the Navy like him before turning to crime. Cellier says if Papillon can figure out an escape, his buddies outside can bring a boat to the island.
Is there trouble?
I was talking to her.
No, you're talking to me.
Work it out in the barracks!
On the ride back to the prison, the guards give a lift to a local pimp who brings women to the island. Papillon asks if the pimp can get them on a boat and offers $2,000. The pimp says he wants $5,000 and that he's only around for 3 more weeks. Back in prison, more inmates try to attack Dega, and Papillon steps in to defend him again. During the fight, Papillon bites off one guy's ear. Afterward, Papillon snaps at Dega for talking to him, angry that he keeps risking his life just because Dega is such an easy target. That night, Dega tells Papillon he wants to escape with him, since he doesn't think he'll last long enough for his appeal. Papillon says no, Dega's too soft and would slow him down. Later, all the inmates are gathered and Julot is dragged out in front of them. His escape failed, and he killed a guard during it. He's executed by guillotine. Papillon and Dega are forced to carry Julot's body into the jungle. Seeing the blood pouring from the severed neck, Dega breaks down completely and can't move. A guard starts whipping him, and Papillon jumps the guard from behind, knocking him out. Seizing the chance, Papillon runs for it. The guards chase him, but he escapes unharmed. Dega is taken back to the prison. That night, Papillon shows up at the pimp's place ready to board the boat, but the pimp double-crosses him. Armed men surround him. The pimp says it doesn't matter what Papillon offers. Whatever it is, the warden will pay double to get him back. Papillon is returned to prison, and the warden tells him he's getting 2 years in solitary confinement on a different island. He explains that the goal of solitary is to destroy a man's spirit and crush any hope he has left. In solitary, Papillon learns that absolute silence is mandatory. He fights to stay sane under these harsh conditions. One day, the guard he knocked out shows up and beats him.
Enjoy your next 2 years here.
Then, Papillon finds a coconut in his water, with a note saying he'll get one every day. He realizes Dega probably bribed a guard, and this act of loyalty gives him a boost of hope. He starts exercising to stay fit, both physically and mentally. But eventually, a guard checks his water and finds the coconut. He reports it to the warden, who demands Papillon reveal who's helping him. Papillon refuses to give up Dega, so the warden cuts his food rations in half. After months of surviving on half rations, Papillon's face and body show clear signs of malnutrition. More months of this brutal isolation go by until the warden returns, offering a good meal in exchange for the name of Papillon's supplier. Papillon shows his defiance by dumping the meal out right in front of him. The warden then orders Papillon to be kept in total darkness for the rest of his solitary sentence. In the pitch black, Papillon begins retreating into his happy memories, but they soon blend into hallucinations. In one, Dega appears dressed as a mime. He imagines a safe in the cell wall and tries to crack it like he used to, but fails. Eventually, the safe swings open on its own, symbolizing a mental shift in Papillon. 2 years go by. Guards find Papillon unconscious and move him to the infirmary. We learn that Dega has gained favor with the warden and now serves as his bookkeeper. When Dega visits the infirmary, he finds Papillon with a blank stare. He apologizes, admitting that Papillon ended up this way because of him. He also confesses Papillon was right. His wife betrayed him and married his lawyer. Suddenly, Papillon cracks a rude joke about her and smiles. Dega is relieved to discover that Papillon has only been pretending to be insane to stay in the infirmary. Dega asks why Papillon never gave up his name to the warden, and Papillon says he knew Dega wouldn't survive the punishment. Papillon adds that if he ever breaks out of this place, he'll live a completely different life. Solitary has changed him. Dega tells him that on Sunday, local officials are visiting the prison, and the warden will show them a movie in the yard. While the guards are distracted, they'll have a shot at escaping. Papillon says they'll need Cellier too, since he can arrange a boat. Then Papillon starts acting wild and yells at Degas to leave. Degas plays along, telling the guards to restrain him. They inject Papillon with a sedative, but he secretly hides it. That night, Papillon hears the infirmary guard harassing an inmate named Maturette. He tells Maturette about the escape plan and says it'll require him to distract the guard on Sunday night. Maturette agrees, but because of how he'll have to do it, he warns the plan better work. Cellier injures himself to get admitted into the infirmary and join the escape. Papillon gives Degas all the sedatives he's hidden so he can drug the guards' drinks. Sunday evening arrives and the 4 inmates begin their plan. Degas serves the guards sedative-laced drinks. Meanwhile, Maturette unwillingly lures the infirmary guard to the bathroom. As the guard takes advantage of the situation, Papillon and Cellier break their bedpost into weapons and knock him out. They sneak past the drugged guards and wait for Degas. But just then, rain starts pouring and the guests and guards rush inside, ruining their chance. Cellier suggests ditching Degas and running, but Papillon insists on waiting. Degas finally arrives with stolen watchtower keys. Since the storm knocked out power, they'll use the darkness to escape. They make it to the tower, but there's a drop. 3 men jump down fine, but Degas hurts his foot. Papillon and Maturette carry him, meet Cellier's contact, pay him, and set off on a boat, finally free. But their relief doesn't last. The boat is full of holes, and they're forced to bail out water non-stop. Cellier tells Papillon the boat can't carry all 4 of them and says they should dump Degas, now a burden. Papillon ignores him, but when a storm appears, Cellier gets more aggressive. He pulls a knife, and a fight breaks out. Maturette is thrown overboard, and Cellier nearly kills Papillon. Until Degas stabs him multiple times to save him. Maturette climbs back on, and the 3 toss Cellier's body into the sea. Degas gathers his soaked drawings. The 3 try to ride out the storm, but it overtakes them, and they're knocked unconscious. Papillon wakes up in a hut and walks outside, where he meets a nun. She tells him he's in Colombia and adds that she knows where he came from. She says it's all fine, as long as he repents and finds God. Papillon finds Degas and tells him it's time to leave, but Degas is still shaken after what happened with Cellier. Papillon chooses to go alone, but as he's heading out, he spots a police car pulling in. He rushes back to save Degas, but before they can escape, the guards see them. Maturette tries to flee and gets shot. Poor guy. He truly gave the most for the escape. They realize the nun was the one who called the police. So much for repentance and God. For his second escape attempt, Papillon gets sentenced to 5 years in solitary. When he finally comes out, he looks like a frail old man. The warden is stunned. No one's ever made it through 5 years in isolation. He asks what kept Papillon going, but Papillon doesn't reply. Next, Papillon is sent to Devil's Island, where he's supposed to spend the rest of his life. The island's steep cliffs make escaping nearly impossible. At the prison, Papillon meets inmates who've lost their minds from being stuck here. Among them is Degas, who had been sent there 5 years earlier by the warden. Degas shows Papillon his place, feeds him, and helps him get back on his feet. After a while, Papillon stands by the ocean, thinking.
I know what you're thinking. The fall. You'll never survive the ocean.
One night, he wakes Degas and shares a new escape idea. The waters around the island are rough. He believes that if they build a raft and survive the jump, the currents will carry them to the mainland. Degas helps build the raft using coconuts, but on the day of the escape, he tells Papillon he's staying behind. He says he belongs here, but Papillon doesn't. Papillon understands. He tosses the raft into the sea. And dives in. He survives the fall and both men shout in joy and relief.
I made it, you dirty little fortune! Woo! Woo!
Papillon drifts toward freedom. Decades later, in 1969, an elderly Papillon returns to France and hands over his prison memoir to a publisher, along with all of Degas' sketches. He's still a wanted man in France, but he returns anyway, because this is where he wants to share his story. The movie ends here, based on the true story of Henri Charrière, known as Papillon. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.